Will guests please rise for the arrival of the official party and remain standing for the national anthem. The national anthem will be sung by Lieutenant Junior Grade Lillian Jones. NPTU Charleston, attention, run. NPTU Charleston, arrival. Deputy, 10th Fleet, nav space, arrival.
Oh, sweet, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Please remain standing for the invocation from Chaplain Brady.
Good morning. Let us pray. Eternal and loving God, we humbly bow our heads and lift our hearts to you in thanksgiving for the grand accomplishment of these sailors gathered together today in this graduation. God, it was you that put into the hearts of these graduates to join the world's greatest Navy and pursue the path of a nuke, leading them to Nuclear Power Training Unit Charleston. It was you, O God, that infused these graduates with grit and grace to not only excel in their studies, but to navigate through the numerous challenges they encountered on their journey that has culminated in this graduation. O merciful Lord, remember and bless the families near and far who believed in and supported this graduating class, as well as the instructors and staff of our training unit who helped guide them to success. And as this class prepares to go into the fleet at the tip of the spear wherever they are assigned, help them to know that you, O God, will go before them and stand with them as the one who orders our steps and props us up on every leaning side, so that no error becomes eternal, no fall becomes fatal, and no problem is more powerful than your grace to bring us through. We ask this in your holy name. Amen.
Please be seated. Rear Admiral Bernacchi, Site Command Master Chief Montello, distinguished guests, family and friends, welcome to the Naval Nuclear Power Training Unit Charleston graduation for ceremony for Class 2207. I am Commander Patriot, the Executive Officer of NPTU Charleston, and we are pleased that you could join us as we recognize the sailors who dedicated so much of their time and effort in the final phase of their training. While we recognize those students who stand out from their peers, it is important to remember that each student dedicated thousands of hours in pursuit of this moment. Today is about the accomplishments of our sailors as they complete the Naval Nuclear Propulsion Training Pipeline. Please join me in a round of applause for our families, friends, and shipmates who played a large part in our sailors' successes. We owe you our heartfelt thank you. It is now my pleasure to introduce the NPTU Charleston Commanding Officer, Captain Reed Koepp. Captain Koepp is a career submariner who has been in command of the USS Colorado and is now in his major command tour here at NPTU Charleston. Captain.
All right, well, good morning, y'all. All right, hey, that's the way we say it here in South Carolina. Let's try it again. Good morning, y'all. Great. All right, that's a pretty cool breeze that just came through the hangar bay there. That does not always happen in Charleston, so that was very thankful for that. Hey, welcome. I'm grateful that you're here. I want to give a few shout outs this morning, a little bit of education on what our sailors are getting ready to do, and then I'll introduce our guest speaker and we'll move on from there. So welcome to the families. I'm excited for the graduates. I appreciate the chief selects that are here supporting our graduation today. I'm impressed by your accomplishments, and thank you for supporting the troops and the command. Hey, I want to give a shout out to Patriot's Point. Every 8 weeks we do this venue where we graduate a group of our enlisted and officer nuclear operators in our team to go continue to staff our submarines and aircraft carriers and facilities around the world. We got about 13,000 to 14,000 nukes at any given time in our Navy. So every 8 weeks we graduate about 400 or so to keep that demand signal going. And so Patriot's Point, well, I can't think of a better venue to send our folks off to the fleet than on an action-packed USS Yorktown American aircraft carrier. So what a great venue. Thank you to Patriot's Point. I want to give a shout out to my staff, our staff at Prototype. We have about 1,400 active duty Navy staff across the moored training ships and our repair facilities and all of our security and administrative team. They work 24/7, 365 is the way our program operates. They operate all three of our critical platforms in our high fidelity simulations and our support facilities so that we can meet this demand signal and continue our training to the high standard that we do. And so they're there working right now in the next class that are going through their rigorous qualifications. So I want to give a shout out to my staff. Hey, just a little bit about education about what our nuclear operators are getting ready to do. So for our enlisted troops, as they get ready to come across the stage, we'll tell you what their rate, what their specialty is, and where they're going. But these rates, we have electricians, mates, or electricians in charge of our electrical distribution and controlling all those, and controlling the lineups and our plants and the services throughout our ships. Our electronic technicians, which we call our reactor operators, control the actual reactor itself and give us the power that we need to make the steam that we need for propulsion and to provide that electricity and to be able to keep us on station for as long as we do. We also have our mechanics, which are a group of specialists that operate all the propulsion machinery and all the associated equipment that support the rest of our ship. And there's also a subspecialty of our mechanics that we pull for that we call electronic laboratory technicians, or ELTs. And they'll stay behind after graduation with me for a few weeks at our schoolhouse and receive additional specialized training to be certified in the control of radioactive material, as well as the chemistry in our nuclear plants. Very high standards, very rigorous, so we count on them a lot for what they do. For our cadre of officers we have here, our submariners, they're getting ready to go to their first assignment, which could be a fast attack forward deployed submarine, or it could be a lengthy shipyard or new construction availability, where they'll still get time at sea on other submarines, but they'll be involved in building our submarines and getting our submarines overhauled, ready to go back to the fleet. Some will be assigned to strategic ballistic missile submarines to keep our strategic deterrent mission going, as well as we have SWO officers, or surface warfare nuclear. They've already done a tour at sea and have conventional warfare qualifications. We're given an additional nuclear certifications, and they'll report to an aircraft carrier in the reactor department, and they'll take over a division and run, and they'll have that assignment as well. So the other things that you'll find here are direct input officers. These are officers we recruited from college. They have a 5-year assignment where they've agreed to come here and get master training specialization to be an instructor at Prototype, so that's a 5-year commitment for them, so a great career stepping stone and opportunity. And we also have what we call crew training engineers. They're civilians that work for Naval Nuclear Laboratory. They're critical to our training curriculum, and they go through the same qualification pipelines that our officers and our sailors do. And so we're happy to have them. And I just want to give you a little education about what they do. Now, the troops, as they're getting ready to leave here, they'll be going all over the world. Like I said, some will stay here for ELT school. Some high performers have been selected, and most of them have volunteered for junior staff instructor, where they'll stay here for a couple years and get that master training specialization where they can be a staff instructor as well. Some will be going to nuclear welding school, where they get a welder certification. There's a local area network for propulsion plants that some will do. Many have applied for officer programs and are eagerly awaiting those results to see how that goes for them. And then one thing we're going to do at the end today, at the end of this ceremony, many of the sailors, you'll see they're walking across with different ranks or extra chevron on their arm. And so they've decided to do a re-enlistment, what we call a star re-enlistment, which once you've achieved the nuclear qualification and you meet the time and service requirements, we allow them to re-enlist. It's 2 more years. It's not at sea. It's a guaranteed shore duty for after they get done with their sea tour. And it's a very lucrative bonus, but it also gives an automatic advancement to the next pay grade and all the benefits and responsibilities that come with that, including housing allowance. And so we're proud of the many, many that are going to be accomplished in that today. So I say all this to say the opportunities abound, and what a great stepping stone for a successful life, a successful career, whether it's Navy or outside the Navy after their first commitment. So that's a big deal, and I wanted to educate you on some of that. Okay, for the families. Okay. Oh, yeah, all right. Give them a shout. Hey, for the families, thank you for being here. I'd like to acknowledge a few of you. If you're a veteran in the crowd and you're willing and able, would you please stand so we could acknowledge you? Thank you. All right, one more. If you are a spouse of one of the graduates today, if you're willing and able, would you please stand? And for the spouses, I just can't thank you enough for what you do, and this is certainly a place I could get emotional about a little bit, but you know, just to know the importance of your service as well, and just to watch over the years how much you selflessly contribute, not just to your family, but to your community, to the ships, to the crews, volunteering in various positions like ombudsman and family readiness groups, and just embracing everybody as they come from all over the country, all over the world to take on this role of service. And we just could not do it without you, spouses. So I just want to thank you. And the journey is going to begin for you today. It's going to continue today at the end of this graduation. Okay, great. Now, before I introduce our guest speaker, let me just get you moving here for just a little bit. I want to know who came from the farthest away. So who thinks they got that, the winner for that? Alaska, okay. All right, he said that with authority. Who else do we got here? Yeah. Hawaii? Oh, nice. Very good. Anywhere else? Anywhere, it can be anywhere. It doesn't have, you don't have to, where else? California, great. Anywhere else you want to give a shout out to where you drove in from or flew? Yeah? Say again? New York, who, yeah? Great. All right, well, I guess Hawaii and Alaska, you guys got it. So thanks for that. That's a big deal. So I was talking about the last two ceremonies. We always have people shout out for Texas, even though it's not the farthest away. So CMC's from Texas, so yeah, I know the Texas people always just shout out regardless. They're just like, we're from Texas, we just want you to know it. And so that's good. Hey, and the last thing is, as your sailors are coming across stage, here's what they told me before this. They said they love when their families embarrass them. That's what they said. And so they said they love it when they yell for me. They love it when I say, so they love things like, that's my sailor, I love my sailor. They love it, all right? And they said that they want you to do that. Nicknames are authorized. Please keep them PG. But we want you to get the most out of this. Like the XO said, please take pictures. This is your time. Please enjoy it. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce our guest speaker, a good friend of mine, a mentor, a shipmate. I'd like to introduce Rear Admiral Bernacchi, also a career submariner. He had command of the fast attack submarine USS Alexandria. He was a squadron submarine commander of Submarine Squadron 4, many flag ranks to include commander of Recruit Training Command in Great Lakes, Submarine Group 10, and it serves as the deputy of the NAV Space Command right now. And I'd just like to welcome Rear Admiral Bernacchi.
All right, what Reed left out is we have been good friends now for about 15 years. He used to work with me when I was Commodore. He was my ops officer. Now, one of the benefits of being the Admiral is I don't have to follow any rules. And so I am going to go completely off script. Usually I write a speech, I do it myself, the families are heavily involved, and I'm not going to do any of that today. Instead, I'm going to talk directly to the graduates. And while Reed has blown a lot of sunshine up your way, I am not. I am going to be very somber. And I'm going to be kind of a downer, but it's going to be from the heart. I'm going to share two stories with you that I have never shared in public, really until today. The first one is a story that still haunts me at night and actually involves your CO. And it happened about 14 years ago, almost to the day. I got a phone call from a submarine CO. He said, Commodore, I have just found out that all the weight test handling equipment in the torpedo room the weight test records have been forged. And what that means in shorthand is the equipment that the submarine had been using to load weapons had not been properly tested, which means that a torpedo could have easily fallen through into the torpedo room and exploded the ship because somebody gun-decked or forged the records. Just so happens that my senior chief torpedoman on the squadron staff used to be the torpedo chief on that ship. I welded the ship next to the pier in Kings Bay, Georgia. I sent down a SWAT team, which included then a young Lieutenant Commander Reed. Yes, he used to be young and good-looking. I sent him and a bunch of the squadron down. We were able to confirm the records had been forged, and that our squadron senior chief was partially responsible. We lost that senior chief, the torpedo chief of that ship, and about 5 torpedo men. This story does not get better. In all, over 15 men lost their careers that day. Actually, the investigation took about 2 weeks, if I remember right. Next, we started looking back aft. Started looking at records throughout the ship. What ought to be crawling right now in the back of your minds is one word: integrity, graduates. Integrity is something when you give away, you can never get it back. Integrity is the cornerstone of everything we are. And it's not natural. It's not inherent in our society. Even as kids, right? Did you eat that cookie as the crumbs are falling off of your face? The kid will say, "No, I didn't do it." Because we want to avoid immediate pain. There's no thought for long-term consequences. So we started looking at M division, primary valve maintenance. All been signed off. Well, guess what? In order to do primary valve maintenance, you have to have O-rings. Not one single O-ring was signed out of supply. Not one. 6 months of primary valve maintenance signed off, which means the ship could have had a steam leak or rupture and killed people. We don't do this because we're asses. We do it because all the lessons we've learned in blood. The the MPA, main propulsion assistant, denuked, thrown off the ship. M division chief, denuked, thrown off the ship. 5 nuclear mechanics, gone. But it doesn't stop there. We started looking at primary plant chemistry. Found that it had been out of spec for months. Forged. Again, supply, nukes, inextricably linked. They hadn't ordered primary chemistry literally in months. Primary chemicals. Lead ELT, gone. I had to put my lead ELT from the staff on the ship, my machinist mate chief from the staff on the ship. I had to raid 4 other ships to make the ship whole. All because you're too damn lazy to do your job. Because you wanted to go home early? Integrity is at the heart of all we do. Over 15 people on a nuclear warship didn't do their job. They sacrificed their integrity. It still hurts just to talk about this. But you know who didn't lose their job? The CO. The CO knew he was in trouble. He shot a flare. The engineer, right? You think I would have decapitated him. Once he realized how bad it was, should he have known better? Hell yes. Then he decided, uh-oh. But we worked to save him because he did not sacrifice his integrity. Now, was he stupid? Yes. But stupid is not necessarily a crime. You see, we will forgive mistakes. We can even forgive stupidity. But we cannot forgive a loss of integrity. If you make a mistake, own it. You will be forgiven. Now, we will make you pay. You will do remedial. You will be upgraded. But we will still welcome you in the family. Do not let your shipmates fall. Being a nuke is the hardest thing in the military. It's relentless. It's grinding. It never stops. It will churn you up. You heard the captain talk about 365, 24, Christmas. Everybody else gets to go home. Engineering department, stay on board. You're the last to leave. Well, matter of fact, you never get to leave. Get used to it. It sucks. This place sucks. Sorry, Master Chief. It does. This is one of the hardest things. I have multiple master's degrees in engineering. #1 school in the country, nuclear engineering, University of Michigan. I have a master's there. That was easy compared to this shit. Oh, I went longer this time. Okay, sorry. This program is hard. It's incredibly hard. It's only going to get harder. But you are the standard. You are the standard of the U.S. military. I've done joint tours. I've done everything. There is nothing that compares to the standard of being a Navy nuke. You must demand the procedure. You must demand the reference. At midnight, when you don't want to take that log in the mezzanine, I don't give a shit. You crawl up there and you take it. And when your shipmate is down, you got to help them. Because I guarantee you, you're going to be down and you're going to need their help. This place is relentless. And all you have is each other. Don't forget that. I have been there for your captain. Your captain has been there for me. Although I did beat his butt in cribbage. I'm just saying that yesterday. Yeah, he wanted a rematch. I thought that was stupid from about a decade ago, and the results were the same. I just want that as a matter of public record. Second story, a little less grim than the first. There was a young Ensign Bernanke, same one that drove down this river on the SSBN 627. I had qualified EOW a month and a half into my first patrol. I was hot. I was smoking. I was so proud of myself. I was day 3 into my qualified watch standing. Initial conditions, main coolant pumps, 1, 2, 3, 4, running in slow speed. We were doing drills as we're headed out to our patrol area. We got all ahead flank cavitate. As I told the other groups, we don't do call signs in the submarine force typically. But the reactor operator, this reactor operator, and I can remember this 35 years later, almost 36, had one. His call sign was Sweet Butt. And over a bourbon, I will tell you why. Anyway, Sweet Butt was there. We got all ahead flank cavitate. I went down to position myself between the throttleman and the reactor operator to coordinate the power limiting bell. Shifting reactor coolant pump 1, main coolant pump 1 to fast speed. Electrical operator, pump shift. Shifting main coolant pump 3. I yell, no! pump shift, siren. For those, reactor operator, what is that? Low flow lockout. Yeah, you probably don't know S5W plant. Anyway, low flow lockout. Sirens going off. I'm like, this is bad. So I tell the reactor operator, shift main coolant pump 5, slow speed. Nothing. I'm like, shift main coolant pump 5, slow speed. Nothing. I do it a third time, order him to respond and take action. Nothing. I'm like, the hell with this. I push him out of the way. I shift main coolant pump 5 to slow speed. The electro operator gives me a side eye, and he says, pump shift. The throttleman looks at me, and I'm like, shifting main coolant pump 2, fast speed. Pump shift, alarm clears. I'm like, I'm the bomb. I'm like, come up on the bell. He's like, yes, sir. And I finished the pump shifts. I'm like, great. I report to control, answering the ordered bell. The bull, sorry, that's the old talk for EDMC. The bull comes in. Basically, it was something to the effect of, what the hell is going on in here? Because he heard the alarm, the siren, which you really can't hide in the engineering spaces. And I explained it to him, and he just looked at me with such a face of disgust and disappointment, and I couldn't figure it out. I'm like, I'm the man. Did you not figure out that I just answered the ordered bell? And he said, you got to report this. I'm like, yeah, sure, no problem. I'll probably get a medal. So I reported it about 5-10 minutes later, and I know this is an oxymoron for the families, but yes, we do have a senior junior officer. That really is a thing. The senior junior officer came back. He said, permission to enter maneuvering. I'm like, granted. You're relieved. The captain wants to see you, and take the watch qual proficiency binder with you. For those of you who don't know what that is, that's a book that has all of our names in it, and the watches were qualified. I immediately knew this was not a good thing. I was like, okay. So I take this binder, and I go to the captain's stateroom. Captain said, basically, I don't want to hear any excuse. I don't want to hear anything but a yes or no. Okay, that sounds pretty clear. Yes or no. Did you push the reactor operator out of the way and shift the pumps yourself to answer the bell? Hell yes. He took the book, found my name, lined it out. He said, you are hereby disqualified. Get out of my stateroom. I thought, this is not good. I'm like, what do I do now? But I was smart enough not to ask him. So I went down. I was actually living in the torpedo room at that time because there wasn't any staterooms open. And then about 2 hours later, the engineer found me. And then I am smart enough not to say the words that the engineer said to me at that time. But let's just say there was a little bit of profanity for about 5 minutes. And then he said, Mike, you took action. That's good. But damn it, you took the wrong action. You were a supervisor. Your job is to supervise and watch and get the men to do the right thing. Your job isn't to do it for them. You failed in your job to supervise the operation of a nuclear power plant. You're not a reactor operator. You're not qualified to shift that panel. You're qualified to supervise the operator shifting the panel. You failed. That's why you're disqualified. And then I had the most ass pain 3-week upgrade program of my life. And it was absolutely painful. But 3 weeks later, I was on the watch bill. The lessons that you graduates need to take: integrity, above all, is everything. The second lesson: know your job, know your place, and know your limits. You are the standard of the U.S. military. This place has taught you that. You will be successful wherever you go if you can remember those two things. And oh yeah, by the way, congratulations.
Thank you, Admiral. The Commanding Officer's Personal Excellence Award is presented to the sailor chosen from each crew who exhibits the greatest degree of professionalism. The selection criterion for this award takes into consideration student effort, motivation, adaptability, personal development, and performance of duty. Following sailors are the winners of the Commanding Officer's Personal Excellence Award. EMN2 Christine Frazier, headed to USS Dwight D. Eisenhower. MMN3 Christian Wright, headed to USS Abraham Lincoln. MMN3 Sean Hange, headed to ELT school. MMN3 Kenneth Bender, headed to ELT school. MMN3 Matthew Glofeski, headed to ELT school. Now, Class 2207, the moment you've been waiting for. Yemen FN Noah Adams, headed to USS John F. Kennedy. ETN-3 Fernando Alarcon, headed to USS Newport News. Ensign Aiden Alejandro, headed to USS Maine. No? Okay. Lieutenant Junior Grade William Anderson, headed to PCU John F. Kennedy. MMN3 Thomas Arbaugh, headed to PCU Arizona. MMN3 Gabriel Baker, headed to USS Pennsylvania. MMN3 Kenshin Barletta Vasquez, headed to ELT school. MMN3 James Barnes, headed to George H.W. Bush. EMN3 Noah Beck, headed to USS Texas. ETN3 Luke Ballou, headed to PP Land School. MMN3 Elijah Bell, headed to USS Greenville. MMN3 Kalesia Bell, headed to USS George Washington. EMN3 Justin Blankenship, headed to USS Maryland Gold. EMN 2 Davin Boisvert, headed to Pre-Commissioning Unit, John F. Kennedy. ETN 3 Christian Booz, headed to USS Carl Vinson. ETN 3 Peyton Bauer, staying at NPTU Charleston as a joint staff instructor, or junior staff instructor. EMN 3 Bradley Brazel, headed to USS George Washington. EMN 2 Bradley Buchanan, headed to USS George H.W. Bush. ETN 2 Brand Alexander Berger, headed to USS California. MMN 3 Craig Cadu, headed to Pre-Commissioning Unit, Vermont. Lieutenant Junior Grade Justin Kalim Lim, headed to USS Nimitz. EMN 3 Gabriel Campbell, headed to USS Abraham Lincoln. Ensign Joseph Capacoy, headed to USS Missouri. EMN FN Tyler Carranza, headed to USS New Hampshire. EMN 3 Christian Carter, headed to USS Ronald Reagan. Lieutenant Junior Grade Andrew Cheney, headed to USS Theodore Roosevelt. ETN 3 Savannah Chapman, headed to USS Abraham Lincoln. EMN 3 Alexander Charlot, headed to USS George Washington. EMN 3 Harry Chung, headed to USS Abraham Lincoln. ETN 3 Brandon Coggins, headed to USS Jimmy Carter. MMN 3 Jared Conway, headed to USS Seawolf. Lieutenant Junior Grade Katya Cope, headed to USS George Washington. Ensign Hallie Corliss, remaining at MPTU Charleston as a direct input officer. MMN 3 Cooper Coatee, headed to USS George H.W. Bush. MMN 3 Robert Kramer, headed to USS George H.W. Bush. Lieutenant Junior Grade Justin Cunningham, headed to USS Dwight D. Eisenhower. Ensign Kelsey Cyrus, headed to USS Hawaii. MMN 3 St. John Dean, headed to USS George Washington. MMN 3 Nathaniel Degalicia, headed to ELT school. EMN 2 Francisco Del Rincon, headed to USS Pasadena. MMN 3 Emiliano Del Rio, headed to USS North Carolina. Lieutenant John Desmond, headed to USS California. EMN 3 Nicholas Diaz, headed to USS Delaware. Lieutenant Valerie Doan, headed to USS Nimitz. MMN-3 Colton Everett, headed to USS George Washington. MMN-3 Eric Fiedler, headed to USS Newport News. MMN-3 Miguel Figueroa Roche, headed to USS Theodore Roosevelt. ETN-2 Abraham Flores Valencia, headed to USS Greenville. Lieutenant Junior Grade Mason Frazier, headed to USS Gerald R. Ford. Ensign Miles Frazier, headed to USS John Warner. EMN-3 Tyler Froenick, headed to USS Nimitz. ETN-3 Thomas Gallagher, headed to USS Pennsylvania. Lieutenant Junior Grade Joseph Garcia, headed to USS Carl Vinson. ETN-3 Jacob Gaskin, headed to USS West Virginia Gold. MMN-3 Colby Gay, headed to USS Maryland. MMN-3 Anthony Gomez, headed to ELT School. EMN-3 Joshua Gonzalez, remaining at NPTU Charleston as a junior staff instructor. EMN-3 Sterling Goodson, headed to USS Harry S. Truman. EMN-2 Konstantin Gorlikov, headed to USS Texas. Lieutenant Junior Grade Catlin Goss, headed to USS Harry S. Truman. Lieutenant Junior Grade Paul Greenbaum, headed to USS Abraham Lincoln. MMN-3 Lander Grulich, headed to ELT School. EMN-3 Bryson Hammond, headed to USS Henry M. Jackson. EMN-3 Staley Hampton, headed to USS George H.W. Bush. MMN-3 Chad Hawley, headed to ELT School. Lieutenant Junior Grade Maxon Hicks, headed to Pre-Commissioning Unit John F. Kennedy. ETN SN Joshua Holine, headed to USS George Washington. MMN-3 Benjamin Honig, headed to USS George Washington. MMN-3 Brandon Hooper, headed to USS George H.W. Bush. MMN-3 Giandre Hopkins, headed to USS Ronald Reagan. EMN-3 Judson Hopwood, headed to USS Dwight D. Eisenhower. MMN-3 Michael Iacomini, headed to ELT School and then junior staff instructor. EMN-3 Kayland Ireland, headed to USS Columbus. MMN 3 Adrian Jackalou, headed to ELT School. ETN 3 David Johnson, headed to USS Gerald R. Ford. Lieutenant Junior Grade Lillian Jones, headed to USS George H.W. Bush. ETN 2 Donovan Judd, headed to USS Minnesota. ETN 3 Christopher Kang, headed to USS Columbus. MMN 3 Anthony Kelly, headed to ELT School. ETN 3 Liam Kelly, headed to USS Minnesota. MMN 3 Alex Kinney, headed to USS Delaware. ETN 3 Long Q, headed to USS Toledo. ETN 3 Jonathan Kim, headed to USS Washington. MMN 3 Eunice Kiongi, headed to USS George H.W. Bush. ETN 3 Lucas Kepke, headed to USS Illinois. Lieutenant Junior Grade Carissa Kunkel, headed to USS Ronald Reagan. Lieutenant Junior Grade Dylan Leahy, headed to USS Abraham Lincoln. EMN 3 Robin Larrabee, headed to USS Louisiana. MMN 3 Bradley Leach, headed to USS Harry S. Truman. EMN 3 Eric Lee, headed to USS Texas. EMN 2 Lance Lee, headed to USS Carl Vinson. EMN 3 Jake Lesher, headed to USS Harry S. Truman. Ensign Samuel Little, headed to USS Oregon. MMN 3 Zachary Lugo, headed to USS Nimitz. MMN 3 Tate Lund, headed to USS Connecticut. MMN 3 Matas Maleshka, headed to ELT School. MMN 3 Cameron Mason, headed to ELT School. EMN 3 Ashley McCraw, headed to USS or Pre-Commissioning Unit, District of Columbia. Lieutenant Junior Grade Aiden McDade, headed to USS Abraham Lincoln. ETN 2 Connor McLaughlin, headed to Pre-Commissioning Unit, District of Columbia. ETN 3 Chase McNeil, headed to USS John F. Kennedy. MMN 3 Bianca Merritt, headed to Pre-Commissioning Unit, District of Columbia. MMN 3 Andrew Malota, headed to USS Harry S. Truman. ETN 3 Joshua Moline, headed to Pre-Commissioning Unit, District of Columbia. MMN 3 Max Montgomery, headed to USS Seawolf. MMN 3 Robert Morris, headed to ELT School. MMN3 Lawrence Moses, headed to USS Abraham Lincoln. MMN3 Joseph Mueller, headed to Pre-Commissioning Unit, District of Columbia. EMN2 Jordan Patchko, headed to USS Abraham Lincoln. MMN3 Alex Parm, headed to USS Alabama Gold. ETN2 Matthew Parr, headed to USS Connecticut. ETN-SN Jacob Phillips, headed to USS Indiana. ETN-3 Joseph Pickett, headed to USS Carl Vinson. EMN-3 Isaac Plotner, headed to Pre-Commissioning Unit John F. Kennedy. EMN-3 Jaden Quick, headed to USS John C. Stennis. Lieutenant Junior Grade Bridget Ralph, headed to USS George H.W. Bush. MMN-3 Jonah Ramirez, headed to USS Carl Vinson. Lieutenant Junior Grade Tyler Reesner, headed to USS Harry S. Truman. EMN-3 Marvin Reinashek, headed to USS North Dakota. EMN-3 Kaylee Reyes, headed to USS Theodore Roosevelt. Ensign John Ridgway, remaining at NPTU Charleston as a direct input officer. EMN-3 Caleb Roberts, headed to USS Nimitz. Lieutenant Junior Grade Eli Roberts, headed to USS George Washington. EMN-3 Dave Robinson, remaining at NPTU Charleston as a junior staff instructor. ETN-3 Joseph Rowell, headed to Pre-Commissioning Unit Iowa. MMN-3 Michael Rufo, headed to USS Ronald Reagan. MMN-3 Storm Sanders, headed to Pre-Commissioning Unit Vermont. Lieutenant Junior Grade Grayson Sigler, headed to USS Carl Vinson. MMN-3 Noah Smith, headed to USS Connecticut. Lieutenant Junior Grade Samuel Smith, headed to USS Gerald R. Ford. ETN-SN Aaron Spees, headed to USS Maryland Gold. Ensign Hugo Stetz, headed to USS Maine. Lieutenant Junior Grade Jordan Stickelman, headed to USS Dwight D. Eisenhower. Lieutenant Junior Grade Ashley Sweet, headed to USS Ronald Reagan. MMN-3 Mason Tamayo, headed to USS Maine. MMN-3 Ethan Tamke, headed to USS Pennsylvania. MMN-3 Justin Taylor, headed to USS Greenville. ETN-3 Tyler Tekka, headed to USS Nimitz. EMN3 Seth Trent, headed to USS Maryland. MMN3 Bella Tyler, headed to ELT school. ETN SN Kevin Venegas, headed to USS Dwight D. Eisenhower. ETN3 Joseph Wagner, headed to USS Indiana. Ensign Brenton Wasserman, remaining at NPTU Charleston as a direct input officer. Lieutenant Junior Grade William Williams, headed to Pre-Commissioning Unit John F. Kennedy. MMN3 Michael Wilson, headed to USS Henry M. Jackson. Lieutenant Junior Grade Joshua Walcott, headed to USS John C. Stennis. ETN3 Jacob Woods, headed to USS Columbia. And last but not least, MMN3 Michael Wright, headed to USS Abraham Lincoln. Please give a round of applause for all of our graduates. Ladies and gentlemen, please remain standing while Chaplain Brady delivers the benediction.
Let us pray. Now, gracious Lord, as this graduation comes to an end, we prepare to leave this place. We ask that your loving presence go with us. When adversity comes to us as we attempt to stand our watch, be near us. When anxiety shackles our hearts and grips our minds, steady us. So as we look back in thanksgiving and forward in the future with abiding hope, we ask this in your holy name. Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes our graduation ceremony. Thank you very much for attending, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day here at Patriots Point and in Charleston. Following the ceremony, a significant number of the sailors who just went across the stage are going to be on the fantail and re-enlist. Captain Kep is going to conduct that ceremony. For any friends and family who wish to be part of that ceremony, after dismiss here, you can go through either door on port or starboard side here out to the fantail and be part of that ceremony. We welcome you out there. Once again, congratulations to the graduates. Thank you, family, friends, shipmates. On behalf of the commanding officer, technical director, and site command master chief, I wish you all fair winds and following seas.